Hello, my name is Roman Djindjihashvili, and this video is from the series of world's greatest players that I had interacted in my life. So today's topic is David Bronstein. David Bronstein, probably the best player in the world without a world championship title. He came very close to winning world championship title in a match against Botvinnik that ended up with a score 12-12. Match that was caused a lot of controversy and a lot of discussion, and they blamed some political influence from government officials of Soviet Union on the result of this match. And this is a long story that we don't want to get involved in. So let's concentrate on one of the greatest talents in the history of chess, David Bronstein. I had a fortune to play him several times. And I lost one game to him, and I won one game and drew several. But it's only because when I played David Bronstein, who was born in 1924, and I was born a couple of decades later, so he played in the late stage of his career, not on his peak, and I played on the peak of my career. So that's why the score was even. In late 60s, I played most of the games with Bronstein, and the last game I played in 72, where I had disadvantage position, suspicious position, and the game went very tactical, and I managed to win these games. And I thought that was I think in 71, and I thought so that will probably as good as Bronstein will ever get. So he's on his decline. But then I saw the game Bronstein played in 1973 in one of the world's top players, Ljubomir Ljubojević from Yugoslavia. And the game completely fascinated me. Game fascinated me because of the style in which Bronstein won this game. Well, I have to tell you, this was very influential. It had a lot of influence on me, this game. And then, several years later, when I saw Bronstein in Iceland, I spoke to him about this game, and he says, I said, was this the best game you ever played? He said, my best game I haven't played yet. So, which means he was full of confidence and full of energy, and all he was looking in chess was the art. And he completely neglected the evaluation of certain positions that was very well known in theory, if he had different view on it. If he had different view, he would overturn the well-known public evaluations, and he will play that opening. So here is the game played between David Bronstein and Ljubojević in 1973 in Petropolis. Alekhine defense, and of course, here Bronstein plays the sharpest and the least popular continuation for white. F4, D takes C, F takes C, C5. Well, I have to point here that LeBoyevich is also very sharp and very aggressive player. And when you play someone like Bronstein, who is ailing, Bronstein at that time was almost 50 years old, so Lebojevic tried to complicate the game and try to, because he thought that Bronstein wouldn't be able to handle it. It's when you are 50 years old, you cannot calculate as well as younger players. But boy, he was wrong. Well, C5 variation. Well, it's not the main move. The main move is bishop F5 in this position. Well, however, C5 was played. D5, E6. That allows D6, which is, by the way, not such a good continuation because of Queen H4 check. But this is part of the theory. Knight C3, E takes D, C takes D, C4, Knight F3, and here C4 was played to lock out the bishop on F1, and black has to quickly organize attack on white's dangerously placed central pawns. Bishop G4, Queen D4, Bishop takes F3, pawn takes F3, and now Bishop B4, attacking D5 pawn by pinning the knight on C3. Bishop takes C4. Now white has an extra pawn, but white is way behind in development. Castling, rook G1, G6, Bishop G5. When Bronstein played this move, he already anticipated to go into some extremely sharp position, and he already planned on sacrificing whole rook for initiative. After Queen C7, he played Queen C7. What is white supposed to do? Bishop C5 is threatening, and bishop on C4 is hanging. Bishop B3, that was of course planned. Bishop C5, Queen F4, Bishop G1. Of course, let me tell you the truth about this position. Bronstein went for this position when you are 50 years old and you are very aggressive and you cannot calculate the way you could in the best years of your chess career. You rely a lot on your intuition. Intuitively, Bronstein thought, I know because he told me that this position is very bad for black. After bishop takes G1, well, we have here very weak, very dangerous position of black's king. Bishop F6 possibly, and Queen H6. Bronstein played D6. And here, few times, Llybovich missed the best continuation. He played Queen C8, which is the second best move, and the best move was Queen C5. I understand why he didn't want to play Queen C5. First of all, Queen C5 speeds up white knight's penetration to F6, and exchange of queens is not good for black, because white has tremendous compensation for exchange, probably winning position. And also the other reason why Llybovich didn't play Queen C5 is because he wants to keep C5 square for his bishop. So Queen C8 is a very natural move. King E2. Perhaps strongest continuation was the castling long, but Bronstein didn't want to pin his own knight after castling, to pin his own knight. He has a plan to go with this knight to E4. So King E2 was played, and now Bronstein played Bishop C5. Llybovich played Bishop C5. After this move, I think black is lost. Knight E4, Knight B8, D7, Rook C1. It's hard to sacrifice whole rook, have your king in its center, and without having some very concrete mating plans. So, but in this position, white has tremendous initiative. Queen C6, and the rook takes C5. There goes second rook. Rook has to be taken. Now knight F6 check, King H8, and Queen H4. Now black is already lost. Queen B5 check, King E3. I got a point here that you cannot play King F2. That would have been fatal mistake well, actually it would have been a mistake because of Knight D3 check. And the E5 pawn will be hanging. Well, if in case king goes to G2, then maybe H5, and knight takes H5. But why do we activate black's knight here? Also possible move is knight E1 check. And white's king is not so comfortable. On king G3, queen takes E5, and so on. So move that was played was very strong, king E3. And now, if black wants to play queen D3 check, then we go king F2. And black has no more checks. Well, in this position, after king E3, H5, H7 pawn has to be protected. Knight takes H5. And of course, black cannot take the knight because of the bishop on B3. After queen takes H5 check, king G8, queen G6 check. You see the pawn on F7 is pinned, and bishop F6 mate. So next move was forced. After knight takes H5, queen takes B3. This bishop has to be eliminated. AB, knight D5 check, also covering F6 square just in case. And after knight D5 check, king D4. Knight E6 check, king takes D5. Knight takes G5. Everything wins here for white. Queen takes G5 even wins. But knight F6 check, king G7, queen takes g5, white has tremendous material advantage and positional advantage, and also black's king in danger when white's king in the center of the board is perfectly safe. It's perfectly out of reach of black's rooks. The game was played several more moves, but there is no need for us to go to the end of this game. This is absolutely fascinating game, and the courage that Bronstein played with this game. He was always saying that there should be changes in chess point scoring. Well, if one side has big initiative and big advantage and goes all the way to win the game, and somehow in the end the other side manages to find miracle escape and game ends in a draw, then he said the whole point shouldn't be split equally, like a half a point each. Side that had advantage most of the game should get rewarded, well, 3/4 or 2/3 of a point. And he had a point when this discussion started worldwide, and majority of the players agreed that, but it had some down points as well. Just shows creativity of Bronstein and how much he evaluated, he respected initiative, advantage, and he wanted to make some changes. And now retroactively, I'm saying, taking in consideration how many games ending in a draw, I wish it happened, and I wish draw would be evaluated by professionals to split 1 point little differently than half and half in case of draw. Well, but now I want to show you one game that was played by Bronstein in 1962. I spoke to Bronstein about this game. It was a very famous game. He played in a match against Moscow and Leningrad. A game was played in 1962, and when I saw Bronstein in Iceland, I saw him in Iceland in the late stage of his life, and I asked him how important was for him this game. He said it was, well, actually, this phrase also is published on internet, but he didn't tell me anything new that he didn't state before. He said this was perhaps my best combination so far. And I was really impressed with this game. Some people think that Bronstein's only strength, the main strength, was the sacrificing and attacking. This is farthest thing from the truth. There were several games. Bronstein beat Botvinnik, Petrosian, Skeller, some best players in the world, in a very, very positional manner. And he was a great positional player. He was using his positional skills when his attack did not produce proper results. I mean, he didn't mate his opponent, but using attack for gaining positional advantage, and he played those positions absolutely flawlessly. He was multi-range player, and he was, in my opinion, the best player without World Championship title. So let's see this game. This game was played in 1962 in a match between Moscow and Leningrad. Those were two biggest cities in Russia and two strongest cities chess-wise in Russia with number of GMs. And Bronstein played none other than Viktor Korchnoi on a board 1. So game was not that exciting as far as the most of the game, but final stage of the game, Bronstein said, this is probably the best combination he has ever played. And he said it was very satisfactory for him to play this game, and he felt very good for many years to come about this game. So bishop, well, that wasn't played. Bishop b5, a6, bishop a4, very well known open variation of Ruy Lopez. Knight takes e4, d4, d5, bishop b3, d5. D takes e, bishop e6, c3. Bishop e7, bishop c2, castle, queen e2. Here, white is attacking knight on e4, and knight c5 perhaps was the best answer. f5 is a mistake, because that loses a pawn by force, and game becomes dull with extra pawn by white. But let's see what happened. E takes f, bishop takes, knight d2. This knight cannot be taken because white has in between queen takes e6 check and then taking knight on d2. So bishop f5, knight takes e4, bishop takes e4, pawn takes e4, and queen takes e4. Queen d7. However, black is slightly ahead in development. Bishop f4, rook e8, queen c2, bishop h4, bishop g3, knight e5, knight takes e5, rook takes e5, rook fe1. White simply has an extra pawn here, and after c5, a4, rook d8. So white played most of the game with extra pawn. You may ask, what can be so exciting here? You will see. If Bronstein was proud of this game must be something else. So queen e2, b4, and you see how slightly his pieces overpowering black's pieces. cb, cb, queen g4, attacking b4 pawn, b3, king h2, queen f7, queen g5, attacking the rook, and threatening rook g7. Rook e8 is not good because white wins quickly after exchanging rooks and giving queen d5 check. then black will be forced to exchange queens, and pawn endgame with extra pawn is absolutely lost for black. So in this position, rook d7 was played by Korchnoi, f3, h6, queen e3, rook d8, pawn g4, king h8, and here Bronstein made move that required precise calculation to the last move of the game, and he calculated it flawlessly and won game with a brilliant end. What did he play? He played queen b6, just activates the queen, attacks the rook. And why is this move so difficult to make? Because this move allows rook d2. That's what happened. Now black is attacking b2 pawn and also f3 pawn. And the calculation was absolutely spectacular by Bronstein. He played quickly queen b8, king h7, and rook e8. Queen takes f3 was played by Korchnoi, and that's what led to the beautiful combination. It's not easily noticeable. Well, check, king g6. But no checks will produce any result because king can go to g5, and there is no decisive continuation for white. If they play queen a5 check, for example, black can play queen d5. So, but here, this is interesting actually. What Bronstein said, he actually even wrote that after the move that was played in a game, which was rook takes h6, the Korchnoi wrote this move on the score sheet and started calculating. He couldn't believe that white can sacrifice its last rook and try to win with a bare queen, checkmate black. So, however, the more he thought about it, the more he came to conclusion that this game, this move, ends the game. And really, he, after some thinking, here, Korchnoi resigned. Let me show you quickly possible variations. If king f7, queen c7, check. King g8, queen c8, check. And queen f8 loses, of course, to rook h8. And on king f7, there is the forced mate. So, king f7 is out of question. King takes h6 is also out of question because every move is forced. Check. It doesn't matter white, but black plays king g6 or king g5. They both lose. For example, king g5, queen h5 check. On king f4, queen f5 check, winning the queen on f3. And on king f6, g5 check, and winning the queen on f3 as well. So this actually, if king g6 is the same result, absolutely. So now we see that there's both continuations, king takes h6, and king f7, they both lose. So what is left? If pawn takes h6, then it's very simple, queen g8 check, followed by queen f8 check, with the same result, winning the queen, black's queen. And the only thing left is king g5, but then queen e5 check with very quick and very swift mate. King takes queen h5 mate, and if king takes h5, rook g6 will lead to a mate as well as queen h5 taking the queen on f3. So in this position, practically after king g6 and rook takes h6, black has like a couple of moves to leave. And on that level, on very high level, they have a fate in the opponent that he will find those very elementary continuations. And this combination in Bronstein's mind was the best combination he has ever played. But it's by far not the best game he has ever played. This is last two moves were absolutely brilliant, but the games he has played were always fascinating me. I think he's one of the greatest players that ever lived, and that's how I would remember it forever. Bronstein passed away in 2006 at the age of 82, and he will always be remembered and one of the brightest talents on the chess scene. So I hope you enjoyed the lecture and you learned something, and I thank you very much. We'll see you very soon.